There is something really interesting in Octo Expansion art book that I want to focus on in this video. This image can be found in the section where they do talk about the objects that can be found in Octo Expansion stages. This is a cover for one of the CDs that can be seen floating around the stage C14 Stick and Move station. You can actually see this cover in that stage as well. Now, we don't have a name for this Cuttlefish duo, but this is a cover for their greatest hits album. One had a higher tone voice whilst the other one had a softer whispering voice. Apparently they were really successful. Their unique floaty tracks captured the teens of their day. They are both still involved in the music industry, but they are providing music compositions. It sounds like to me they are no longer creating material themselves. It sounds like to me that they are no longer creating music together. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like they have gone their own separate ways, but they are still involved in creating music compositions, maybe on their own, maybe for other artists. But yeah, that is really interesting. What it sounds like to me is that this Cuttlefish duo were the Squid Sisters and the off the hook of their time. They were the original idols in the world of Splatoon. It would be really cool if we actually got to see this music in the game, if we actually got to see what music they created back in the day. Maybe this Cuttlefish duo, maybe they could still appear in the series. Maybe they could be the next idols. Maybe they could be the idols for Splatoon 3. They could make a musical comeback and we could get to hear what this Cuttlefish duo are about. But I don't think that will happen, just because what Nintendo seems to do is they sort of like move on the culture by introducing a new band. So I don't think they will be the idols for Splatoon 3. Maybe we will see them appearing in other bands. Maybe if Nintendo ever decided to do a prequel to the Wii U Splatoon, maybe we could see these two being the idols for a potential prequel game. Maybe a potential prequel game set before the Wii U game could look at the birth of Inkopolis and its culture. Maybe this Cuttlefish duo could be part of that story. But whenever the question of who will be Splatoon 3's idols, whenever that question has been asked to me, I always answer it with the idols I want to see, and that is twin Octoling brothers that are Rastafarians, that are heavily into reggae music. I think it would be really cool if we got to see idols that are producing reggae, maybe even ska music. That is always my answer to that question. But having thought about it a little bit more, it always seems like the idols have to be female, because that is what is more attractive to the Japanese audience. The Japanese audience is so important to the success of this game. I'm not really sure whether the Japanese audience would gravitate towards males. I'm not really sure whether that would happen. So I think the idols for the next game will be female, but instead of them potentially being Inklings or Octolings, maybe they could be Cuttlefish. Maybe they could be part of the Cuttlefish species. It could go that way. So seeing this image has definitely made me think about the idols for Splatoon 3. First of all, I thought maybe these could be the idols for Splatoon 3, but having read the text, it sounds like they are no longer popular in the current day culture, so they wouldn't work as the idols for Splatoon 3. But it's kind of got me thinking that maybe the idols, maybe they will not be Inkling or Octoling. Maybe they will be part of the Cuttlefish species. Now moving on to a similar topic and a similar thought process I had when looking at this image. Ever since the introduction of playable Octolings to the series, the conversation soon moved over to what could potentially be the next playable species in Splatoon. A lot of people talk about maybe salmonids being the next playable species, but I don't think that is possible. But having looked at that image of the cuttlefish duo, they sort of do look like inklings and octolings, so maybe we could see the cuttlefish species being the next playable species in the Splatoon series. Maybe with Splatoon 3 we will get cuttlefish as playable. Now this is sort of plausible because cuttlefishes are part of the same group as squids and octopuses. They are known as cephalopods. They are quite similar to squids and octopuses. They have suckers on their tentacles and they produce ink like squids and octopuses. In real life, the cuttlefish, or cuttles, which is the correct plural for cuttlefish and not cuttlefishes, as what I did mention earlier on in the video, but in real life, the cuttlefish uses ink to evade its enemies. I feel like cuttles could work with the mechanics of the game. They also produce black ink as well. Maybe this could be a way for Nintendo to introduce black ink into the game. Now one big stumbling block to this possibility of having cuttlefish as the next playable species is that the big difference between cuttlefish and squids and octopuses is that the cuttlefish does have a cuttle bone. This is a hard, brittle internal shell that is used for buoyancy control. So because that cuttle bone is brittle, it is easily breakable. I'm not really sure whether it would be possible for the cuttlefish to go from like a squid form to an inkling form, for example. But maybe Nintendo could explain that by saying the cuttlefish in the game has evolved from the cuttlefish in real life. The world of Splatoon is set many thousands of years in the future, so maybe Nintendo could explain it by saying that the cuttlefish has evolved to a point where their cuttle bone is no longer easily breakable. They can go from like a squid form to an inkling form or whatever the cuttlefish equivalent would be, but they could go into that sort of format so that they could be easily playable and that they would work in the world of Splatoon. Secondly, this is a video game. They don't necessarily have to be 100% accurate. They could tweak the facts to work for the game. But having said that, a lot of Splatoon is heavily influenced by what happens in the marine life in real life. So again, this could be a stumbling block to having the cuttlefish as playable. Now one cool fact about the cuttlefish is that each species cuttlebone has a unique shape, size and texture to it. Maybe Nintendo could use this fact to make each playable character different. So whenever we create one of our cuttlefish characters, they will be different to whatever someone else has created. Basically, the possibility here is that everybody's Cuttle's character could be different to one another, apart from making the character different in terms of what gear you are wearing. They could make the character itself different. That would be really cool to see. It would be really cool to see everybody having a different character to each other. Other possible candidates for new playable species in the world of Splatoon is other species that do shoot ink, and one of them is the sea hare. Someone on Amino has come up with a really cool concept to having the sea hares, or harelings as they call it, as the next big playable character in Splatoon. I will leave a link to that Amino page in the description below, but let me know your thoughts about everything I've talked about in the comment section below. I really did find that Cuttlefish duo really interesting. It's a shame how they aren't represented in the main game. Yes, you can find the cover for their CDs in Octo Expansion DLC, but it would be really cool if they got names and we actually got to see them in the game and we got to hear some of their music as well. Seeing that image has definitely made me think about what the idols for Splatoon 3 could be and what Nintendo could do for Splatoon 3 in terms of bringing in a new playable species. But that is it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on everything I've talked about in the comment section below. But that is it for this video. I really did enjoy making this video. Definitely did find this video really interesting to make. So yeah, we'll see you in my next video soon, hopefully.